Japan's brand new prime minister just made China seriously angry. During a parliamentary hearing on November 7th, Sanae Takaichi said in relation to a potential Chinese blockade of Taiwan that if warships are used and other armed actions are involved, I believe this could constitute a survival-threatening crisis. China reacted fiercely, including official protests, threats, and a travel advisory to avoid all trips to Japan. Even the stock markets are now reacting negatively. Here to discuss what is happening and why this sentence is such a huge problem is Dr. Joanna Lei, a former lawmaker in the Republic of China, that is the government of Taiwan, and a great friend of inner Chinese peace and reconciliation. Joanna, welcome back.
Thank you, Pascal. You picked the right time for a very serious topic.
It's a very, very bad topic, actually, and I'm very surprised by how this all blew up. Can you maybe tell us, first, what exactly happened and why is it that China is reacting in the way it is?
I think there are a couple of really important points. Takaichi's statement is her official statement as a prime minister in the Diets. And it is also the first time Japan moved away from some kind of strategic ambiguity and made a very clear statement that what happens in Taiwan on the Taiwan Strait, even in a blockade situation, would constitute a survival threat for Japan, which would give Japan a right to intervene militarily. So all of these are first. They're the first time ever after the Second World War or in recent years that something like this has happened and made officially in the Diet. So China reacted strongly. Taiwan's DPP, the pro-independence and pro-Japan faction, reacted jubilantly. So I think there are real reasons that this is not just a diplomatic hiccup, but a very serious issue.
And the thing for Japan is that the sentence survival-threatening situation would mean that it would give the prime minister the power to dispatch the self-defense forces also in collective self-defense with other allies, meaning the United States and Taiwan. China is now officially saying that this is an inadmissible way of interfering in inner Chinese issues. Do you think the Chinese are overreacting, or was this to be expected?
I think there are long historical wounds caused by Japanese military expansion towards China, causing wars against China, starting from 1895 and also more recently in 1931 to 1945. So those wars has caused China, either the Qing dynasty China or the current Chinese government, huge wounds that's opened by this simple statement. In addition, they were very careful. They told people what it meant to be considered a survival threat, because Japan has used that in its past aggression toward China, in its past aggression in the Pearl Harbor situation. So once this term is used and linking Taiwan Strait and situation in Taiwan to Japan's survival threat, it gives a very strong signal of potential military intervention. And that, of course, is not something that we've heard of before. And that is why the reaction is strong, swift, and decisive.
The thing that I believe is not clear here in Japan and probably outside as well is just how hurtful it is for Chinese ears to hear this sentence of survival-threatening crisis or existential crisis, because this sentence goes back to the Second World War. Can you maybe speak to that a bit?
Yeah, actually, before the major military confrontation in the Second World War, Japan used this survival threat as the reason to wage military attack towards China. And from that, you understand that the Second World War, either using a 14-year time period or a full 8-year time period, has caused over 30 million casualties or deaths in China, as well as countless destruction of properties and infrastructure. So these has been used as real warning signs for Japan never to wage military aggression towards other regions in Asia Pacific. And that is exactly why after the war, Japan has a quote unquote peace constitution written by the then American General Command. And also that is why Japan has Article 9 is quote unquote peace constitution. So with Takaishi stating this in the Diet and signaling that she is contemplating changes of other related clauses and other laws with regard to the military, it's just signaling that the militarism that haunted Asia, that was in Japan's past, seemed to be reviving. And that revival caused huge shockwaves in China.
One thing Takaichi didn't do since she became the new prime minister was to visit the Yasukuni shrine, this war criminal shrine. She sent flowers instead of going there, but she didn't go herself. How do you explain to yourself that she's now making such a rhetoric in parliament?
Well, certainly she has acquiesced in terms of going to Yasukuni shrine. We've maintained the position, both people in PRC and people in Taiwan who has followed governments that fought the Second World War have long insisted that those 14 Class A war criminals are the reason why we reject any Japanese politicians going to Yasukuni shrine. So I think Takaichi understands the severity of that and she acquiesced. However, she has a long-term plan, both in her campaign and in her actions as a prime minister, to quote-unquote mobilize Japan. That is to have Japan's self-defense as a full military, that has Japan release its restrictions from military expansion outside of the four island territory, and that she's thinking of reviving related laws with regard to the use of nuclear-related powers. So all of these are sending really, really strong signal that she has a destiny that she's following. She may take different steps. She may sometimes acquiesce. But this new statement, especially made in the Diet, sent very, very strong signal and is a warning sign to countries in Asia Pacific that was once occupied or militarily controlled by Japan.
大家好，我是主播周玉琴。很多的朋友告诉我们，太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌帮助了睡眠品质。有季节敏感、代谢困扰、关心异常细胞风险的好朋友呢，可以选择原版的太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌。它添加有超级食物羽衣甘蓝，健康再加分。而有睡眠困扰的朋友们，赶快选择蓝色包装这一款晚安加强版，绝对是更有感。每日克菲尔，时刻美好 ，Good Feel Good， 请上快点购为健康下单，而且要记得输入推荐代码，有额外的折扣优惠。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌基础版、晚安加强版，新包装改版，内容不变，抽取更方便。要吃就吃最好的。